everyone. So being a carpenter, you know, we spend a lot of time on site, you know, basically cutting wood and banging in nails. I know that's oversimplifying it, but we also sometimes have to have days where we're not doing that, and that could be going to see customers about jobs, pricing jobs, checking jobs are ready for the next phase of whatever it is you want to do. And that's where I'm going today. I've had a relatively easy day. I've been to do a few different bits and bobs on various jobs, not particularly working, but just making sure that everything's where it needs to be, that the customers are in the picture in terms of what's coming next. I'm just going up to look at a bungalow that I've been working on. I've done the first fix for it. I've done the stud work and the window boards and the door linings, and the builder has had it plastered and is keen for me to get up there and start second fixing. I'm slightly concerned, given the time of year, that it may well be too wet in there. You know, we have to be very careful when we're installing, you know, timber products like doors, skirtings and kitchens and things, that if the moisture content is too high, or the relative humidity is too high in the building, the timber can obviously suck that moisture in, and we can have problems with things swelling in the first instance, but then when the heating goes on, we can also have problems with things drying out. So got my moisture meter. I'm gonna get to this job and poke it in a few places and see what we come up with. Right, here we are on the job. I think it's fairly clear to see that it's pretty wet. I think if we can just see the sort of condensation on the window here. So, I mean, that tells me straight away that, you know, we've got a lot of moisture in here. So I've got my trusty moisture meter. This is a Stihl one. It measures percentage moisture content. So let's stick it in a few places and see what measurements we come up with. So the first one I'll do will be, we'll have a look at this door frame here. So keeping it, moisture meter you keep with the grain, not against it. So let's turn it on and see what measurement we got. Yeah, so there we've got, turn it sideways, 22%, so that's very high. So let's check another couple of places. Look at the face of this door lining here. We've got there, you can see that, we've got 18 there, and we've got another one here. Let's just stick him in here. Yeah, so we've got 20 there, so quite clearly this is got a very high moisture content in these linings. Now it's easy to see with the condensation on this window that obviously there's a high relative humidity in this new build bungalow, which is to be expected considering all the wet works that have been done, the plaster, there's a lot of water goes into that, and obviously the floor as well. There's been a lot of water gone in here. It's the middle of winter, so you know it's not like we can open up the windows and there's a lovely warming breeze comes through. So there is a relationship between relative humidity and moisture content. Most timber manufacturers, they will kiln dry internal grade material, not just joinery, but the CLS is maybe slightly different. It varies depending on if it's hardwood or softwood, but they will try to get those down to sort of around about 10%, maybe 8 to 12%. And this is because if you were to stick this in any of your joinery in your house, if it's got central heating, generally it would read about 7 to 8%. So the reason for that is obviously they don't want to put timber into your home that's got a higher moisture content than it will eventually have once the house is up and running and the heating's going, and then what you'll suffer with is shrinkage, which we don't want. So the issue I would have here is that if I went to hang these doors and I'd give myself a nice two-penny gap here in the UK and they look super neat and tidy, what would happen almost immediately, certainly over a few days, these doors would absorb the moisture that's in the air and they would swell up and bind. And then what would happen, I'd have to come back and ease them. So I'd end up with a bigger gap than my 2mm gap when they shrunk back down. And then when the linings shrink and the doors shrink and everything shrinks, it looks a bit shoddy. So that's why it's really important, as far as I'm concerned, to make sure that we've got a suitable environment before we start bringing in these timber materials. And this is just a short video. It's not really showing anything, but it does indicate to you the correlation or the importance between moisture content and relative humidity. And what I will say, I mean, I've got a moisture meter here, and if you're doing this at for yourself. There's a really simple way really to judge for yourself if it's dry enough, and that would just get even a bit of paper or a bit of card, like a bit of cereal box or something, and if you just cut a square of that out and put it in the room or in the building that you're going to introduce timber materials to, very quickly you'll find that if it is dry enough, that cardboard will stay nice and crisp. Whereas if the cardboard feels like it's, when cardboard or paper feels a bit damp, that cardboard, that will absorb any relative humidity really, really quickly. So that gives you a good idea of whether you should be introducing, what is usually quite expensive materials, be it doors or floors or skirtings and architraves, whether you should be introducing them into that environment with that kind of moisture content in. And I know what I will say is that these linings, for instance, when these went in, technically, if it's been done properly, they should have been undercoated all round to stop the moisture from moving into them. And I know we see that on the moisture readings, that the back of these linings have quite clearly absorbed the moisture from the plaster. But even if we protected the linings by undercoating them and priming them, it still wouldn't mean that we could come straight in here with solid core doors, a timber door, even if they were the cheap contractor egg box type doors. Those doors would very quickly absorb the moisture in the air and they would start to swell. So it's a little worthwhile trick for me to just check the moisture in this place, because what I don't want to do is the builder say, yeah, it's ready, me come, get here, book to come onto the job and find that it isn't ready and they have to go somewhere else. So I'll just have a quick chat with him now. We'll talk about how we can reduce the moisture content in the building and the relative humidity and get it to the point that we can start introducing new materials. So, not a fantastically interesting video in terms of practical carpentry work, but it does give you an idea of what we as carpenters have to deal with in terms of the material that we use. It's a fantastic material, timber. I absolutely love it. I love using it. It's so varied, and it's one of the great gifts to mankind. And we've utilised it in a fantastic way over many, many centuries. But there's this constant balancing act between it shrinking and swelling, and we have to try and manage that. So I hope you found the video of interest, and I have got some more videos coming where I'm going to be showing you some of the second fix I'm doing on that bungalow, and as soon as the moisture content and the relative humidity gets to the right place, I'll be making those and showing them to you. So once again, thanks for watching.